to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at PG Psycho Goreman, a Canadian film from 2020. Psycho Goreman was written and directed by Stephen Kostanski of the film collective Astron 6. His previous films include the Lovecraftian The Void and the very enjoyable Little Shit requel Leprechaun Returns, both of which featured fantastic special effects, which is definitely the strength of Astron 6 Productions. Psycho Goreman is a continuation of that impressive practical work, with a ton of tactile creatures and violence that's an absolute delight to watch. The film combines horror, science fiction, and fantasy to deliver a loud, explosive feast of creative sights. The titular extraterrestrial terror, Psycho Goreman himself, is one of my favorite recent horror characters. I never get sick of his magma-looking blood vessels, his baritone bellowing, or his insatiable quest to end all life in the universe. The scenes featuring him and his galactic exploits are the highlights of the film, and his super serious facade lends itself to a bunch of hilarious moments.
It was nice meeting you.
It would be nicer if you were dead.
Alright, bye.
Unfortunately, those fantastical scenes are about the only part of Psycho Goreman I like. The film is just as much a comedy as it is anything else, and I'm not a fan of its sense of humor, which I can only describe as la random. Most of that comes from the lead human character, Mimi, a pint-sized prepubescent wannabe despot who belittles everyone around her and screams her lines in wacky ways.
Crazy ball!
Now, I want to be clear right away. Actor nita-josee is perfect at playing this part. She's doing exactly what she was directed to do and giving it 1,000%, so good on her. But fuck, can I not stand Mimi? I don't find her funny, and I don't find her cute. She's just mean and annoying and drags down the movie, almost as much as her dad, whose defining trait is laziness, but who mostly comes across as that improv friend who can never turn it off. Between those two characters and some self-observing jokes, the movie is never sincere enough for me to fully enjoy. It's always commenting on itself and saying, gee, isn't this stuff crazy? Instead of just being a good time and letting its madness speak for itself. As always though, don't take my word as gospel. Humor is subjective, and a lot of people really love this movie. You might be one of them, so might as well give the thing a shot. Psycho Goreman is a pretty big problem for people on Earth, but not every problem comes in the form of an ancient evil alien. Sometimes your problems can be more internal, and thanks to today's sponsor BetterHelp, you can start resolving those now. Chelsea and I are huge proponents of mental health upkeep, and as therapeutic as horror movies can be, it also helps to speak to licensed professionals. BetterHelp can match you with a therapist based on your personal needs, and you can begin communicating with them in less than 48 hours. Now, to be clear, this isn't a crisis hotline, but it is a secure way to have online video or phone sessions that are more affordable than traditional offline therapy. Chelsea uses BetterHelp for therapy every week, and she loves it. And we both appreciate that BetterHelp listened to feedback it got a few years ago regarding the language in their terms. Today, their terms are more clearly written to reflect that all therapists are licensed and verified by their team. I would not suggest this service if I didn't personally see how much it's been helping Chelsea. But because she's had such a good experience, I can recommend you visit betterhelp.com/deadmeatjames to get started living a happier life today. That's betterhelp.com/deadmeatjames. Act now and get 10% off your first month. How much bloodshed can one intergalactic antagonist create? Let's find out and get to the kills. The movie begins with a story crawl. That's backstory about Psycho Goreman that we'll learn about later. Right now, let's meet these kids playing motherfucking Crazy Ball.
Crazy ball!
It's nonsense in the mold of Calvin Ball, and while it's funny in close-ups with metal music, I think they used the joke of the awkward objective shot way too early.
Crazy ball! 1. Crazy ball! 2. Crazy ball! 3.
Especially since it gets back into the speed metal right away. Psycho Goreman's music was composed by Blitz Berlin, who tailored the movie's tracks to different inspirations and styles. The Crazy Ball music, which makes me feel like I'm playing Killer Queen Black, is meant to evoke early 90s media like Power Rangers and the original TMNT movie. Younger sister Mimi wins the match, meaning older brother Luke has to dig his own dirt bed to be buried in. While digging, he finds a glowing gem that Mimi takes for herself, causing a pink eruption to come from that brown hole. Whew, you never want one of those. The kids are put to bed by their parents Greg and Susan, who hate the shit out of each other. As they sleep, an ancient evil being punches its way out of the ground in their backyard. It makes its way to an old shoe factory, where it comes across a trio of thieves and assimilates their language immediately.
A variation of the Aronian tongue. How primitive.
The being slaps aside the ringleader and pulls the others towards him with space powers. After calling them weak, he rips off both their heads. Holy shit, dude, this son of a bitch is awesome! But this colorful being isn't a one-size-fits-all tormentor.
I don't want to die.
Then live forever.
And he laughs as he grants the lead thief his wish to remain alive. The next morning, after seeing that something crawled out of their hole, Mimi violently makes Luke agree to go look for whatever it was later. And bring your friend Alistair too, Luke, because Mimi likes that kid in a weird, aggressive way.
Hey, cutie. You look good in your little outfit there. Why don't you give us a spin, hunky boy? No thanks.
Ha, that darn Mimi. She's so wild and wacky, right? That night, the kids track the claw marks and footprints from their backyard all the way to the old shoe factory. They discover the head thief gagging in stasis and a bunch of body part art, both of which portend the main man of the hour, who shows up promising to kill them both nice and quickly.
Know that in the sweet release of death, you will be spared the sight of your planet being torn to pieces.
Mimi yells back at the being, since she has no respect or fear, and strangely enough, it obeys her when she tells it to let Luke go, all because of that glowing space rock.
The gem of Paraxidike.
Yeah, glowing space rock, gem of Paraxitax, whatever. The gem grants Mimi control over this guy, who's forced to obey her every command. He warns her that he'll kill her as soon as he's able to, a fate that befalls the frozen thief after Luke bumps into him, and he smashes apart. Haha, yeah!
He was my masterpiece.
Fuck yeah, he was, dude. Actually, that was a masterpiece of the film's effects artists, like Mike Hamilton and the Toronto-based studio Masters Effects, headed by Todd Masters. Excellent work here, and there is plenty more to come. The angry evil being says he has no name, but goes by a kick-ass moniker.
The Archduke of Nightmares.
That's not good enough for Mimi, though, and after a pretty bad brainstorming sesh, she lands on something titular.
Psycho Goreman!
Qu'est-ce que c'est? This is the film launching into its premise, and it has a solid start.
I'm Mimi.
And I'm Luke.
I wield powers unimaginable to your simple minds.
Psycho Goreman's performance and look are great. He was designed by Steven Kostanski, who did all of the creature designs, in addition to writing, directing, producing, and editing the movie. That is a lot for one person to do. Probably too much. Kostanski designed PG to look like a toy he'd want to buy as a kid. Mission accomplished, bro. He reminds me of Vac-Man, arch nemesis of Stretch Armstrong. On the performance side, PG's fantastic voice acting comes courtesy of Stephen Vlahos, but the much more intensive part of this portrayal was done by Matthew Nineveh. He'd arrive on set hours before anyone else in order to be transformed into the character. Though the end result looks amazing, it was tantamount to torture, both physically and psychologically. That's because the suit's prosthetic pieces were glued to his body, preventing him from sweating and cooling himself down.
It just cooks you.
To cope with the long hours, Nineveh would zone out in between takes, and try not to think of how much longer he'd have to endure this hell.
That suit almost broke me.
Mimi uses her powers to make PG take a seat, then leaves him overnight, grounded under her control. She's thrilled to have a new plaything, even though Luke's worried about all the murder and world rendering rhetoric. As he should be, PG is an intergalactic menace. We learn this when the movie transports us to his home planet of Gygax. Inside a stormy tower, the Gygax Council frets about PG's awakening on Earth. Once again, Kostanski's creature design is a delight. I especially like Tube Man, a puppet who rarely talks, unlike the verbose Cortex, played by fellow Astron 6 member Matthew Kennedy. Cortex and the others talk a whole lot, with dialogue that's obtuse and bureaucratic.
It's clear that the rules of the Gygaxian Unity Accords have failed us.
It's an intentional nod to George Lucas's bewildering screenplays for the Star Wars prequels.
You're impressed with what you're seeing, but you're also maybe a little confused by the dialogue that's happening.
The Council's leader is Pandora, a Templar who doesn't want to risk justice when it comes to PG.
The only verdict is for him to die by my hand.
Pandora is a force for sanctimonious lawful good, which is reflected in her leitmotif by Blitz Berlin.
So angelic that it's like horrifying how angelic it is.
She's the kind of good who's so rigid it starts to become evil, exemplified when she summons a human to examine Earth's native species.
Don't be afraid.
Well, I guess she can't be afraid, can she, Pandora? Because she's a meat cube now. And meat cubes don't have fear. But boy, do they taste good. All the protein you need to become a human. The next day, the kids take Alistair to meet PG. They bring a CRT TV, which, along with the lack of cell phones and an earlier discussion about an N64 game, are our indications that this movie takes place in the 90s. That feeds into the nostalgia factor Kostansky was going for. In addition to the TV, Mimi also brings PG magazines.
Look at all the hunky boys.
I do not care for hunky boys. Or do I?
Ha! We stand a bi-curious king. At Luke's inquiry and Mimi's command, PG sits down to tell them his backstory. He was born before time on the planet of Gygax, where he and his race were enslaved by the ruthless Templars. The Templars forced them to build their pyramid shrines until one day PG came across the gem of peroxide. It gave him the power to liberate his people with glowy eyes, and I'll kill count 7 Templars that he's standing atop in a heap here, as well as this 8th one whose head gets decimated with a punch! Flames of awesomeness! With his powers, PG took control of Gygax, then traveled to other planets to kill indiscriminately. I'll count a whopping 55 kills here as PG goes about his goal of killing every living thing in the universe. Sure, 50 of them are these background bodies on stakes, but they're still countable, you know, kind of. To stop this destructive force, the Templars imprisoned PG with the gem of Pericles. He stayed in this Terran prison cell until he was released by these idiot kids. The flashback story segment is my favorite sequence of the movie due to its extensive use of green screen, stop motion, and miniatures. I'm always impressed by detailed miniatures like these, which were shot by cinematographers Andrew Appel and Pierce Dirks. It's so fucking cool how you can make these creations look like a stormy planet with simple tricks like the use of a spritz bottle. These practical effects, which were mostly done in Kostansky's workshop, evoke his earlier film Manborg, which took him 3 years to make. After Mimi and the boys leave for the night, PG tunes the TV to channel Blood 01. This puts him in contact with his loyal generals, whom he tells to come to Earth and kill the kids. Luke has Alistair over for a microwave chicken dinner prepared by their ruthlessly inept father. Greg is my least favorite character of the film, but he does get a funny line in here.
Back when I was in the Army, we used to play guns all the time. Except it was called the Iraq War. And you played for keeps.
The rest of his lines feel more like an actor trying to be funny than an actual person who is funny. Like, he'd work as a character in a 3-minute Britannic video, but not in a feature-length film. Greg was written specifically for actor Adam Brooks, who co-founded Astron 6 with Jeremy Gillespie in 2007. Kostansky and Brooks describe Greg as charming and pathetic, which is an assessment I sadly only half agree with. Shunned by Alistair and Luke wanting to play without her, Mimi uses her Jemmy to call for a friendie, and eventually PG arrives. Mimi asks him to, quote, make Alistair less of a dork, and PG's idea of granting that wish is to turn Alistair into a giant brain with googly eyes. Susan and the cowardly Greg wind up outside, and though PG promises to one day murder them with the hatred of 1,000 suns, at the moment, Mimi is still in control, and she promises her parents that he's really a big softie.
Don't worry.
Be worried.
If we really want to soften PG up, we're gonna need a montage to the most cringeworthy song I've ever heard. Oof. I get what they're going for, but hearing heckin' and frig you over and over is just not my sense of humor. I hate cutesy cuss subs. Just say fuck. It's not all bad though. I get a good laugh out of PG killing a heckling kid by blowing her up with his alien mind bullets. After well-worn jokes and Disney Channel style head peeking, the Try Too Hard trio has a fried food break. And let me tell you, those Gygax know how to eat. PG takes special note of Mimi's continued assholery towards Luke, and in an effort to divorce her from the gem, he attempts to exploit Luke's unhappiness by visiting him in a dream. I love the shot of Luke waking up in his bed in a cemetery as a direct homage to a similar shot in Phantasm. And I love that the reference is underlined when PG makes his entrance.
Boy.
That is a tall man boy to a T, or B.
Boy. Boy.
PG tells Luke to steal the gem from Mimi because she's a little fucking monster who treats him like shit.
How long before she puts her life before yours?
This is the closest the plot comes to being interesting, in my opinion, but I don't think there's ever any satisfactory payoff. I do enjoy the ending to this sequence, though, with its long, awkward silence while zombies wriggle around in the dirt. Mimi tries to teach PG the rules of Crazy Ball, but since it takes a whole montage to explain, they're barely finished when the 5-0 arrives, and PG hates 5-0. He grabs Officer Vince and fuses to him like a Cronenberg, and his blast of ancient galactic truths is enough to turn the cop into a melty, moany mess. He sounds like that Batman YTMND. PG sends the other cop to spread word of his presence, while his partner is left being a sorry son of a shambler. He doesn't like it. This character is actually BioCop, the subject of a fake movie trailer made by Kostansky back in 2011.
I mean, I didn't need to put BioCop in the movie, but I had to put BioCop in the movie.
The BioCop trailer was included on the DVD of Manborg, and the guy who played BioCop then, Robert Homer, reprised the role here nearly a decade later. I thought that was really cool. At the police station, Officer Dennis is relaying his brush with the Archduke of Nightmares when Pandora arrives in her brand new human form. She extracts the info she needs from the police officer's head, and considering her track record with humans, I'm gonna assume this kills the man, even though we cut away before it can be confirmed. A minor dispute in the woods leads Mimi to ordering Luke's death at the hands of PG, and though she calls it off, this was just a power is power kind of moment, it's worrisome enough for Luke to begin considering PG's dream overture. A bunch of lightning strikes touch down in front of them, each transporting a new fanciful being. These are PG's loyal generals, the Paladins Obsidian, and he's called them here to kill the kids and finally set him free. To his dismay, they instead laugh in his face and say that things are much better without him in charge.
We take turns as the appointed leader, so everyone gets a fair chance.
As you can see, it is currently my turn.
The Paladins Obsidian are another kick-ass part of Psycho Goreman. Their specific and unique character designs remind me of Venture Brothers, where idiosyncratic characters are sometimes constructed out of a single joke, like this robot pirate Cassius 3000, who's played by Astron 6 member CONOR SWEENEY, or their leader Darkscream, who looks like he'd eat a hobbit, or, you know, at least their legs.
They don't need those.
Or this Mr. Bucket looking bastard, who's named Death Trapper. His backstory is that he collects bodies from the battlefield and melts them down to shoot out of his arm cannons. He's voiced by Rich Evans of Red Letter Media, which Kostansky is a big fan of. Mimi, mad that PG was trying to kill them, orders him not to defend himself against this slow motion ass beating. I hate that they reuse two jokes in this scene, both of which are more of the movie commenting on itself.
How long is this gonna go on for?
Luke just asked that during the Phantasm Dream scene. They also reused the joke they did with Crazy Ball, where the action zooms out to show an awkward objective shot. I wish this movie's humor was a little less obvious, but at the same time, this scene is a triumph of practical effects. Getting all these costumes and effects to work properly is not an easy thing to do, especially with a low budget. Fight choreographer Alex Chung, who also plays the lead paladin, Darkscream, put a ton of work into making sure everything ran smoothly the day of the shoot. In fact, they did pre-visualization for the entire fight first, mapping out each individual shot to know how it all fit together. Chung specifically requested they work in a so-called Guyver kick, named after the Guyver films, which served as an inspiration for Psycho Goreman. Kostansky loved how Guyver 2 was like an R-rated Power Rangers, and he sought to recreate that tokusatsu style here, thus all the sparks accompanying sword strikes. After Mimi wrings an apology out of PG, she lets him get up and give my graphics creator something to do. First, PG quickly murders Death Trapper with a single Archdukean punch. As the kids watch with detached snack eating, this Witchmaster lady uses her staff to tear off PG's head. Hell yeah! But it unsevers itself in no time, and PG shows her how it's supposed to be done by making her body disappear and leaving her as just a head. PG stabs Vince the cop in the eyes with the Witchmaster's broken staff, finally putting him out of his misery. Nice little gift, since it turns out it was the poor dude's birthday. PG then turns to the Medusa-like Queen Obelisk and rips out the rose she has for a heart. That's enough to make her blow up into masonry bits. And for Cassius 3000, PG uses a pool of eternal darkness to make the android pirate realize some universal truths. Then a hand reaches out of it and rips the guy's face off. Love those googly eyes. Darkscream is saved for last, and PG gives him a warrior's death, which in Gygax terms means eating him whole with his giant expansive mouth. Yo, I thought this was sci-fi horror, not sci-fi gore. After the battle, PG finds himself weakened.
I'm dying.
What?
Turns out the Paladins used cursed weapons, and now PG's losing Pepto-Bismol fast. He sends a screaming telegram to Greg on the shitter, yelling that he needs help and giving him directions where to go. It's an extended bit that goes on for way too long, just like the argument Greg and Susan had in the scene right before this one. They were fighting over Greg's laziness, which is just too over the top for me to find funny.
Oh yeah, I bought a new TV. In other news, I'm gonna take a couple weeks off work till my hand can heal completely. So you might wanna pick up a few extra shifts at the pharmacy.
That's not real human behavior! Greg helps pick up PG, and on the way back home, runs over the Witchmaster's head as it's rolling down the road, finally putting her on the kill count. When they get home, they find Susan waiting with Pandora, and the battle lines are drawn between good and evil. Since Mimi friggin' sucks, Luke hightails it to the Templar side. But because their parents hate each other so much, Greg decides to spite Susan. He signs with Mimi and PG, and they all drive off together to the old shoe mill. There, Mimi wraps PG up in her finest cow print blankie. What would that be, a babushka? The movie grinds to a halt with two painfully unfunny scenes. One wherein Greg tells a childhood story, and another where Mimi pretends to pray only to break a crucifix in the name of Psycho Goreman. Back at home, Pandora reverts to her natural form and invites Susan to become like her by drinking a little Templar tonic.
It's time for you to stand beside me and right the wrongs of this universe. I'll drink to that.
Pandora busts into the shoe factory, followed by Susan in her new metallic getup. Luke's here too, and he's got the gem. Cool, now let's everybody pair up so we can get through the climactic fight scene, okay? All three of the lady combatants gain their respective upper hands, but PG invokes some ancient rules and the quarrel comes down to a game of crazy ball. In Mimi's words, Team Suck versus Team Hero. Right on par with the rest of the movie, this climax is a senseless montage of style over substance. All jokes, no plot.
5-point buck bonus.
With a switcheroo and a gut punch, Mimi wins the game for Team Hero, but turns out all that bullshit was pointless because Pandora goes to kill PG anyway. As Susan holds off the Templar to protect her kids, Luke goes for a heartfelt moment and tries to get Mimi to see how fucking annoying she is. Instead of an apology or a real character moment, she instead does a down-tempo acoustic version of that awful frig off song. Luke likes it, I guess, and hands over the gem. Pandora strips Susan of her Templar powers, so she finds herself solo fighting a newly empowered Psycho Goreman, now with batteries included. PG strafes past Pandora a bunch until he's collected enough body parts to make himself a weapon. It's now time for a quote Masters of the Universe style sword fight, which was once again choreographed by Alex Chung for the two suit performers, Matthew Ninneber and Kristen McCulloch, who plays Pandora in her true form. McCulloch had an added difficulty when it came to wearing her suit. The fact that Pandora's eyes are a pair of wings, a great idea courtesy of concept artist Aurelio Mazzara, but which made it difficult for her to maneuver around safely on set. As the two of them fight, Mimi finally gets around to apologizing. Although she doesn't do it verbally, she only knocks it out in their code language. That's not good enough, Luke. Quit enabling her! During the fight, Pandora ruins PG's hunket boys, giving him the strength to defeat her in battle. He then gives her a warrior's death, a sight that those parents are better off not seeing. Thanks to Mimi, the unspeakable evil has triumphed, and PG agrees to spare her family as he sets out to conquer and murder. Okay, kisses for chaos. I do love him hopping through a portal and starting wholesale destruction willy-nilly. The movie ends with a news report about a giant Psycho Goreman destroying the world, though there are thankfully no clearly broadcasted kills for me to count. The credits play over a supper time scene, reminding us of Alistair's unfortunate state, with his mom, played by Kristen McCulloch, Pandora's actor, out of the suit. How many people died in PG Psycho Goreman?
The answer reminds me of a time when I counted kills on the planet Gygax while avoiding laser eyes from the invasive Lucy monster. Using the gem of proximity, I was able to increase my size. I managed to tame the beast when all of a sudden...
Wait, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the numbers. By my count, there were 76 deaths in Psycho Goreman. The victims included men, women, children, Templars, orcs, Mister's Bucket, and plenty more, so don't even think about touching that pie chart. It is full of purpley space stuff. With a runtime of 95 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 1.25 minutes. Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill is actually gonna go to two separate kills, because I just can't decide between them. Firstly, the head thief, since I legit laughed when Luke knocked him over, and those people parts look great.
Thank you.
Secondly, Dark Scream. A warrior's death is the noblest death, and also the nastiest. I love PG's unhinged jaw. Dull Machete for lamest kill will go to the 50 bodies we counted on stakes, which is definitely a bio cop-out, but most every other kill was awesome. And that's it. PG Psycho Goreman came out in 2020, and director Steven Kostanski says he plans to do more with the character in the future. I'll keep an eye out for any sequels, but until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count.
On the next Kill Count, Detroit, Michigan, Hockeytown, Motor City, the Big D. These 3 small-time criminals are trying to get out of Motown, and they're robbing houses to make the money they need.
You know we keep hitting houses like today's, Rocky. And
bye-bye, Detroit.
And Ola, California.
This next hit should be their last, and also their easiest, because they're robbing an old blind man, and no way that guy could be a threat. Ooh, never mind. Don't Breathe is 90 minutes of pure tension, where the criminals become the victims, and the victim is much more than meets the eye. This week, raise your heart rate and watch Don't Breathe. And on Friday, watch the Kill Count on Dead Meat. Don't Breathe can currently be watched on the pictured streaming platforms. Dead Meat always recommends you watch the movie for yourself before its kill count. It's the only way to have your own properly informed opinion. Kill counts are never meant to replace the experience of watching a film.
Thanks a lot for watching this Kill Count. I want to thank some patrons like Jonathan Beast, Camilla Jensen, Jacob Kostin, Sam Delve, Ryan C. Barclay, Matthew Miller, and Darth Joker. Once again, thank you for being understanding this month about the reduced Kill Count release schedule. I have been working hard on those Friday the 13th recount scripts, so I can't wait to show you them. But first, Don't Breathe, which we'll see next week. Be good people.